Welcome back. This is the Simply Successful podcast. I am your host, Sue, and I love to hold the space for you where faith, mindset, high performance, and leadership intersect. Today's episode I have for you is titled Sacrifice or Dedication. Success is all about perspective. And let's talk about something that can actually make or break you during the journey. And this is your perspective, and whether you view yourself in times of struggle as a victim or victor. Let's start where wisdom begins. In one of my most favorite books and manuals about human behavior, actually, the Bible. In Romans 12:1, Paul says, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. And we notice in this that sacrifice isn't just loss, how many of us are perceiving it as something bad. No, sacrifice in a biblical way and term and how it's intended for us to be is an act of worship, of intention, of purpose. That is what we call true dedication. But so often, when we go through long hours of work days, never ending traffic jams, setbacks, or rejection of any kind, may it be in private or in the work environment, we think, why me? Why always me, Lord? We feel like victims of the process, and within that, we're giving all power away. We're victims in the process and not architects of our own growth and success anymore. But this is human. This is part of the human journey. We all find ourselves in those situations where just everything feels too much, too stressy, too overwhelming, where we feel like we're pulled in so many directions at the same time. And this is where we call out and say, why me? Why is it always me? And that's why I made this podcast today for you to shift your perspective. And I'm calling me out, and the same time, I want to help out, reach out a helping hand to you with this. So we can pull ourselves back together when we're in times of struggle and just change our mindset and change our perspective. In terms of a victim mentality, we easily fall back to and change this into an actually victor or victorious mindset. And let me give you an example from the Bible. And there is this young guy named Joseph. And Joseph was the youngest brother, and he was kind of the favorite child. And this is also teaching us a valid lesson about do not put any favor on child, or don't have a favorite child, or don't put any injustice um, or unbalanced scales in your household, or it will backfire. But back to Joseph. Joseph is the youngest child, and he's a favorite child. He's well dressed, well clothed. He's like really loved by his father, and therefore he has some privilege. All the other guys have to go out onto the field from sunrise to sunset, working hard, being in the field, taking care of the flock. And bringing the water in. And Joseph is more like the, let's say, spoiled kid. And what is the outcome of that? Is everywhere when you have injustice or when you treat people differently, whether it is in the work environment or in a private surrounding, in your family, in your relationship, in your friendship. If you treat people differently and you create injustice, this will lead to some sort of resentment building up. And the same was with Joseph's brothers, for sure. They build up resentment. They get frustrated. Why he's always spoiled. Why he doesn't have to get his hands dirty like we do. Why do we have to work so hard and he just have like the easy peasy life? And this resentment grows so far that one day they decided to sort him out, so to say. And they sold their own youngest brother into slavery, into Egyptian slavery. And Joseph now finds himself then later on in the story, not just as a slave, but actually accused for something he did not do because he rejected a woman, like actually the woman of the Pharaoh. And not that it wouldn't be bad enough to be sold into slavery just for being a spoiled kid. But then he got falsely imprisoned for many, many years, and he even got forgotten in the prison. And if anyone seriously had the right to play the victim, it would be him. And reading the stories in the Bible really helped me to change and redirect my perspective when I complain about things that are actually luxurious to complain about, considered to how they lived back then, or how tremendous biblical figures or historical figures really like dedicated themselves and challenged and finding themselves challenged and struggled. So what was so inspiring about this story of Joseph is that he had the right to play the victim. He really could have, just like considering what what they put him through. But Joseph never complained. No, he prepared. He didn't see the pit or the prison as punishment. He actually had the mindset of a true victor, of a true successful person. He saw everything God and his siblings and everyone put him through as not punishment, but positioning. And by the time the Pharaoh called, Joseph wasn't bitter, but he was ready. And I'll invite you to go and read that full story. It is really inspiring. But what I want to give away to you today is the question for your own life, and to ask yourself, how can I change my perspective today in everything I'm going through right now? And may there be a greater purpose behind everything, and the phase I'm going through and the struggles I'm going through right now are maybe actually preparing me, building the strength, the resilience, the self-dependency, the whatever you need to cultivate. Is there a possibility that this right now is preparing me and positioning me for the greater purpose I want to step in, and that's promised on my path? And just reflect on that and try to shift your perspective on the struggles you're going through right now, and try to find the blessing in disguise and the good thing that actually come from it, the learning and the growth. And maybe you got a detour, or you are positioned now in places you never intended to be, but maybe this is because this is exactly where you're meant to be, to play it big. And another switch from the historical view into more modern entrepreneurial echoes. Let's see to let's just fast forward to the boardroom of like modern world entrepreneurs or inspiring figures. And I want to tell you about Howard Schultz. Most of you probably don't know Howard Schultz by name, but this is the man behind Starbucks. And he grew up actually in public housing with a father who struggled to keep jobs. And instead of resisting his upbringing, he used it as motivation to build a company that treated employees with dignity and offered healthcare benefits, even to part timers, which was like extraordinary at that time. And he is a great example for how we can turn our pain into power and our trials and tribulations into triumph. And all the benefits and everything he dedicated wasn't a sacrifice of profit simply. No, it was true dedication to a higher vision, to a heart's desire to treat people and treat employees better than he perceived his own dad when growing up. And here's where you can ask yourself, where am I dedicated to a higher purpose? Why did I even start this job, this career, this sports, this relationship? What was the calling, the inner calling, the heart's desire, the purpose I felt burning inside when I started this? Because sometimes we're on the way for so long that we can easily lose sight of why we even started. And within the struggles and in the midst of trials and tribulation, this is a good point actually to stop for a second and be silent and think back to the beginning and think about that purpose, that pull, that heart's desires that pushed you into even starting this. And I want to give you another example, which was really inspiring to me throughout my trials and tribulations and setbacks, and when I was thinking about giving up or going further. And being a female, I obviously looked into female entrepreneurs as well. And someone that stuck out for me was Sarah Blakely. Probably another name pretty unpopular or unfamiliar to most of you, but she is the founder of Spanx. And everyone that is not a girl but has a girl at home probably knows exactly what Spanx are. It is a kind of like the most famous shapewear these days women run after. And she was the founder of Spanx, and she was rejected by every hosiery mill in America for 2 years. She lived in near anonymity, building her prototype. And many would say she sacrificed her social life, her savings, and even her pride at some point in time. But Sarah, interestingly, never saw it that way. She often said, I was never attached to the outcome. I simply enjoyed the process and I was just dedicated to showing up every day to make it happen. And this is what we call a true victor's mindset. And this is what makes the whole difference between someone that is simply successful and someone that's struggling. So here's the heart of it I want to give you today. The victim sees discipline as punishment, or how you can actually identify whether you are in a victim mindset right now or in a victor mindset. So if you have thoughts like discipline is punishment, or I am just sacrificing too much, this is like too much, this and that, then most likely you are in a victim mindset. And you have the chance to change and switch that immediately. How would a victor react to those struggles and times of shortages, maybe, and challenges? A victor would see it as preparation, as being positioned to the right place as people in divine timing. And when the victim says, oh, I'm sacrificing so much, and discipline is so painful, and punishment, and why do I even do this? It's not worth it. The victor, on the other hand, says, I am dedicated, and I'm dedicating myself to what matters and whatever it takes to make it happen. The pain they both experience may be the same, and even the pressure may be the same, but the perspective, this really truly changes everything. So, how do we shift now from victim to victor mentality? First of all, I want to invite you to reframe your struggles as a stewardship. Whatever season you're in, see it as something entrusted to you, not done to you, but given for you. And I've talked about this in previous episodes here on the podcast as well. If we change our mindset, not from why me? Why does this happen to me all the time? Why me? To wait a second. What if this actually all happens for me? And this is preparation for what I'm after. And this is actually an opportunity given to me, because it's the same with going to the gym and building muscle mass. You aren't complaining on the machines, working your butt off, saying, "Oh, why me? Why is that training so hard? Why me? Why it is so painful to go over that challenging edge?" No, you're very well aware that this is preparation for the outcome of your dream healthy ideal body. You don't complain, you seek the challenge, you seek the pain and the dopamine release and hit that comes afterwards once you reach that training goal, once you finish that session strong. And the same is with life in general. So if you can adapt that mindset to everything else that happens to you in life, this makes all the difference, trust me. And second, you can build through obedience. And if you go back to the Bible and Jesus didn't just die to forgive sins. He endured massive pain, humiliation, betrayal for the joy set before him. And he is the role model and the idea of purpose that reframes pain. So just try to change your perspective, and everything will fall into place, you'll see, and everything makes so much sense then. And when it makes sense, you are committed because you understand, and now you can charge ahead and restore your energies, and you gather your swords and your strength, and you know why you have to push through it. Like in the gym, you know why you have to push through the shoulder press or the leg press in order to get strong, healthy, resilient legs. So you know that in life, to get to where you want to be, to fulfill your purpose, to serve, to be dedicated to that higher version of yourself, that higher vision, you have to push through the uncomfortable, the unfamiliar, the unknown, the scary, the maybe painful at times, changes and shifts. But know that this is your training process. This is necessary to actually achieve and come back stronger on the other side. So the third tip I want to give you is to celebrate discipline. And this is something I had to learn the hard way too, because oh Lord, did I struggle with discipline? Of course, I was growing up a professional athlete, and my professional sports career started when I was like, I don't know, 5 years old. And discipline was my all day experience. Watch what you eat, get up early, go to training, show up properly prepared, be disciplined here. When everyone later than my friends get out, like, no, I can't come to the party. I have to be disciplined. I have competition on the weekend. Actually playing 2 teams, so I have even more competition. So my whole upbringing was discipline and performance. So trust me, when I'm dropped out of professional sports, the first thing I craved was laziness and not being disciplined. And that led me actually to the other extreme. I had like struggles with binge eating. Then once everything was allowed, because I wasn't a performing athlete anymore, when I was a young adult, I had like struggles with binge eating, and I had just like struggles with laziness and not kicking my own butt anymore because I was so burned out of doing it my whole like younger life. And that's why I had to learn to build a healthy relationship to discipline again. And I'm just like telling this myself to learn to celebrate discipline and stop calling it a sacrifice like it is we're losing something, but view discipline as something that has to do with dedication, and celebrate discipline as a call for dedication within your purpose or calling, and learning to build a healthy relationship with discipline and shifting my mindset towards this made it so much easier to actually stick with it, because the human brain wants to avoid pain. This is an absolute normal evolutionary pattern we all have in order to survive and thrive. Actually, we are built since caveman time. We are built to avoid pain, because pain, physical pain, emotional pain, which is actually kind of like all the same, but that's another story. But avoiding pain was a mechanism to secure surviving, because pain indicates that something is wrong, like something is going sour within our body and our functions. And pain is like a huge alert to the nervous system and to the brain. Oh, be careful, you might actually be able to die from whatever you're experiencing right now. And this is, for example, because why people with massive heartbreak can even have a heart attack, because the body can't determine whether this is just mentally or emotionally or actually physical pain. And it all sends the same massive survival warning signal to the brain. So we are really blueprinted to avoid pain at all costs. And if we now view discipline or sacrificing something for our dreams and goals, if we view it as pain and punishment, we're most likely going to have huge resistance towards discipline. And because we want to avoid it, because discipline means pain, means punishment, means someone's taken something from us. And as long as I and everyone else I was in that mindset, and as long as you maybe are in that mindset, you're going to struggle with discipline. So try to shift it here again, your perspective from a victim mindset of someone's taken something from me and discipline is so painful, towards actually a victor's mindset that views discipline as a necessary step in a row of aligned steps to the next mountaintops, and as dedication, as love for something. Just view it as, yeah, love is maybe a good example. If you are deeply in love with someone, it almost feels like nothing is a sacrifice because you're dedicated to serve that person. You're dedicated to make life easier for that person. So, of course, you easily do whatever it takes to make life better for your loved ones, to show them how much you care and love. And all of a sudden, um, what you may perceived earlier as something to be a sacrifice or an unpleasant task or discipline, all of a sudden, if you put love in it and dedication, it becomes easy and becomes something you want to do. And isn't that funny? Just by shifting your perspective, it shifts the whole trajectory of the word and everything and the whole experience, basically. And this is something I had to learn, and I just want to share because it was a huge epiphany and aha moment on my way to create a successful life for myself. And to wrap this up, I want to give you like a little challenge for this week. So, when you feel the grind, the struggle, the challenge, I want you to ask yourself, am I sacrificing something or dedicating myself to something? And you will actually be amazed at how that shift transforms the way you lead, you build, you believe, you show up in relationships, in your workplace, in your friendships. And yeah, just share your experiences with me. I'm super excited and curious to know how that works for you. And as always, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for listening to this podcast. And if this resonated with you and you have someone in mind that maybe struggles right now, please share it with someone who really needs to hear it. And until next time, stay faithful, stay focused, and stay simply successful.